players are skating around in circles for one final time on this ice. And a lot of kudos. About a dozen Bison fans made it out. They are also joining with the Heartlanders fans in applauding, knowing the circumstance here.
Yeah, I really appreciate that and appreciate the heart that the team played with today. There's not a lot that you can do to dress it up, you know, when you say, oh, you lost the game, but gosh, did they ever play hard and made sure that there were some final memories made here as the Heartlanders stay on the ice, salute this crowd, and it's been a great run.
Has been.
Welcome back, fans, to another episode of the ECHL Insider. I am your host, Garrett Hunter, ready to talk about the 2026 Kelly Cup playoffs. But before we do, you just saw what could be the last home game in Iowa Heartlanders history as the Heartlanders saluted their fans after their final home game against the Bloomington Bison, a 4-3 overtime win for Bloomington. But the fans obviously emotional as their Heartlanders went off the ice for what could be the final time before the management discusses the future of the franchise next year when the Heartlanders will not be playing. Well, with that, let's get you some scores from last week, the final week of the regular season, before we preview all 8 first-round matchups. Well, it was the Florida Everblades with an interesting series between them and the Reading Royals Friday and Saturday. 4-1 and 3-2 victories for Florida, but I think, beneficial games for the Royals to see an opponent like Florida going into the playoffs, try to help them get sharpened up and ready to go for their first-round series with the Wheeling Nailers. Also, the Kalamazoo Wings made a very valiant push for the playoffs on Friday and Saturday with 5-4 and 4-1 road victories to eliminate the Cincinnati Cyclones from playoff competition. They went into Sunday afternoon controlling their own destiny. They win or go to overtime against Fort Wayne. They're in the playoffs, and unfortunately for Kalamazoo, that did not happen. Fort Wayne comes away with a 4-3 victory on Sunday, which not only eliminated the Kalamazoo Wings, it got the Indy Fuel into the playoffs and gave Fort Wayne the first place spot in the Central Division. So with that all, let's talk about the best time of year, playoff hockey time. 8 series in the first round, 2 from every division. What a great time of year it is, and what a great slate of first round matchups we have. I can't wait to talk about it. As we go through each series, I want to give you the keys to each of these matchups, what to look out for and everything. And I will also, like I have done the past few seasons, predict who I think is going to win the series. So you can obviously predict your bracket with me, compare your results to mine, and see who has a more accurate prediction on who it wins each series, first through fourth round. Let's start in the North Division, where it will be the 4 seed Reading Royals taking on the top seed Wheeling Nailers in the first round. Wheeling and Reading, definitely a rivalry now at this point. They met a lot in the regular season, Wheeling winning a majority of those games. But I think a key for the Reading Royals in this series is going to be win your home games, right? 3 home games, games 3, 4, and 5 if necessary for Reading. You got to take care of business on home ice, right? This is a very skilled, very talented Wheeling team. They don't make a lot of mistakes, right? They don't hurt themselves. So if you're Reading, you got to get right on home ice. Depending on whatever that series score is, after games 1 and 2, you got to get right on home ice, right? And for Wheeling, you got to start the series strong on home ice, right? Last year, really, a bad situation of events. You started the series in Norfolk, despite being the higher seed, just because of building availability. You got into a 2-0 hole. You come home, you lose, and the series was out of control, right? Ended up losing that series 4-1. This year, you have a more traditional schedule, games 1, 2, and 6 and 7, if necessary, at home. How do you handle it now for for Wheeling. You get to start the series at home, build momentum early in this series, win your first 2 games if you're the Nailers before heading to Santander Arena. And in this series, though, I project the Wheeling Nailers to win. I think it's going to be a close series. I don't think Reading's going to get swept like they were last year to Trois-Rivières. I think it's going to be a good series, but I see the Wheeling Nailers just as a deeper team this year. I think they come out on top in this series. Our second North Division matchup, the 3-seed Adirondack Thunder and the 2-seed Maine Mariners, also a heated rivalry in the North Division, meeting up in the first round of the playoffs. And for these two teams, right, Adirondack happy to get back to the playoffs, right? 2 seasons ago, they were in the Eastern Conference Final. Last year, they finished in last place of the North Division. Everything went wrong. And then this year, new coaching staff, completely new guys behind the bench, a very different roster, and they're back in the playoffs, right? So definitely good news for the fans in Glens Falls. Great news for that team. And for the Mariners too, right? They missed the playoffs last year. They come into this season with a different result, right? You get to the playoffs, also a first-year head coach, new guys behind the bench, very different team, and they make the playoffs. So 2 teams in similar spots, but they both have different styles of play. So I think that will be interesting in this series because Adirondack, look at the Thunder, and their keys to winning this series is play to your identity, right? Play a physical game, right? You have a guy like Daniel Amesbury who loves dropping the gloves, right? And yes, there is times for that in a playoff series, but you got to be smart with it, right? You got to play physical, impose your will on the Maine Mariners, but do it in a smart way. And for the Mariners, don't get pushed around by Adirondack in this series, right? You have the skill, you have the talent on that team. Don't let the Thunder push you away, get under your skin, right? Get out to an early lead in the series, get going, play to your strengths, right? If you're the Mariners, don't let the physicality of Adirondack push you around, get you off your game. And I think in this series, I picked the Thunder to win. But for Maine, their key to winning this series, obviously, is don't let the moment be too big, right? This is a franchise who's been in the playoffs twice. They were eliminated by the Reading Royals both times in the first round. They've never won a playoff series. Don't let that overshadow this first round series. Just because history isn't on the Mariners' side doesn't mean they can't win this series. Go out with a clean slate, ready to play this series. But I'm picking the Thunder to come out in a very close series win. On now to the South Division semifinals, where it'll be the 4-seed Savannah Ghost Pirates making their first ever appearance in the playoffs in franchise history against the very experienced 1-seed, the Florida Everblades of the South Division. And 2 very different teams, I think, clash in this series, right? You have Savannah, who in their short franchise history, I should say, never made the playoffs, right? Young team, second-year head coach Jared Stahl, new to the playoffs, new to postseason. And then on the other side, you have the Florida Everblades, right? 3-peat champions, then went to the Eastern Conference Final last year. Head coach Brad Ralph has never missed the playoffs in his 14-year head coaching career in the ECHL, right? This is, same old for Brad Ralph, right? No early summers for him in his coaching tenure. So how does these 2 teams match up, right? We saw it a lot in the regular season. Some good close games, some not so close games, but I think for Savannah, this is a big upset, right, if they win this series, just because of how dominant the Florida Everblades are and have been all season, right? So Savannah, here are my keys for them, right? You have to make Florida pay, right? Florida's not going to make many mistakes in this series. But when they do, when they put you on a power play, you got to convert, right? They're not going to make many mistakes. So Savannah, if you want to pull this upset, you got to make Florida pay on their mistakes, right? And then also, Savannah, you can't make dumb mistakes. You put Florida on a 5-on-3, they're going to score. You give them multiple power play opportunities, they're going to score. You miss shots, that's going to lose you a hockey game, right? This is a very talented, very buttoned up Florida Everblades group. So Savannah, you've got to capitalize on their mistakes, which are going to be very few and far between. So you have to have good goaltending for the Ghost Pirates. You can't make mistakes yourself, right? Whether that's an undisciplined penalty, big point in the game when you miss the net, stuff like that, unforced icings, even something as basic as an icing, that comes back into your zone, you lose a face-off, it's a goal, right? Stuff like that, that really makes a difference in a playoff series. How does Savannah do that? How do they limit the opportunities for the Everblades? That's going to be something to look out for. And then for the Everblades, right, keep doing what you've been doing all season, right? Physical play, goal scoring ability, incredible goaltending from Cam Johnson. That's all the things that Florida's been so good at this year. Keep doing that, right? And for the Everblades, I also say use your experience, right? The most experienced team in the playoffs right now in the ECHL is the Florida Everblades. Use that experience to your advantage. That's one of the disadvantages of the Savannah Ghost Pirates this year. They've never been in the playoffs, so use that for your advantage for the Everblades. And also jump out to the early lead on home ice, right? Games 1 and 2 are in Florida. You got to win both of those and go to Savannah feeling good about yourselves. And that's something that the Everblades are used to doing in playoff series. Up next, a 2 versus 3 matchup in the South Division. The number 2. First, I do pick the Florida Everblades to win their series. Sorry, I didn't get to that. I do pick the Florida Everblades to win, but should be an interesting series there. Sorry. Now back to the 2 versus 3 matchup in the South Division. The South Carolina Stingrays, the 2 seed, and the 3 seed Atlanta Gladiators. Should be a really good matchup. I think that in this series, though, the keys for Atlanta is their rookies that have been so good for them this year. Think about rookie goaltender TJ Semptenfelter, one of the best goalies in the league this year, and how good he's been, and a great goaltending duo between him and Ethan Heider this year for the Gladiators. Use that as your strength, right, for the Gladiators. Shut the Stingrays down. They're a very prolific offense. You're going to need good goaltending. So I think TJ Semptenfelter and Ethan Heider are going to be big parts in this series. Don't be surprised if Atlanta starts both goaltenders at some point in this series. Would not be surprised if that happened. And for the South Carolina Stingrays, right, learn from your mistakes last year in the playoffs, right? They were the best team in the regular season last year going into their first round matchup against Orlando. They went up 2-0 and then kind of took their foot off the gas, right? Made some mistakes. Orlando capitalized off that, tied the series at 2. South Carolina wins game 5. It's 3-2 going back to North Charleston, and they only got to win 1 game, right? And then what happened, right? Things didn't go their way in game 6. They go to a game 7 against Orlando. And of course, as hockey would put it, the bounces don't go South Carolina's way. Orlando gets a shutout and wins the game 2-0, right? So stuff like that really makes a difference in a playoff series. Don't take your foot off the gas if you're the South Carolina Stingrays. Jump out to the early lead on home ice and stay on the Gladiators all series long. And how can they do that? Simon Pennard, right? The leading goal scorer of the Stingrays this year, has been so prolific all year for the Stingrays. Him and all the other guys have been so good on South Carolina this year. Use your prolific offense to your advantage. Break down the defensive core for the Atlanta Gladiators, and that's how South Carolina can be successful in this series. And I am definitely predicting them to be successful and win the series. Well, let's switch over now to the Western Conference. We'll talk about the Central Division first, where it'll be the 4 seed Indy Fuel and the Fort Wayne Comets, the 1 seed. First off in this series, we got to talk about is how Indy got here, right? A Fort Wayne win against Kalamazoo got Indy into the playoffs. So now Indy's like, thank you, Fort Wayne, for winning. Now let's try to beat you in a playoff series, right? So kind of an interesting dynamic there. But, when you talk about Indy Fort Wayne, you talk about rivalry, in-state rivalry, first round of the playoffs. Should be really good here. And that's obviously something that plays into playoff series is rivalries and teams who don't like each other. And the Fuel and the Comets are definitely 2 teams that don't like each other. So how do I see this playoff series matching up? Well, for my keys for Indy, right, is get road wins, right? Fort Wayne is a hard building to win in, and they're going to have to do it at least once in this series because 4 games are in Fort Wayne. So how do you do that? You got to take the crowd out of the game, get early goals, get early momentum, shots on net, stuff like that the Fuel are going to have to do on the road if they are going to win this playoff series. And also stay out of the box, right? Fort Wayne loves to push you around, loves to push your buttons, stuff like that. The Fuel cannot give in to the Fort Wayne Comets' physicality, right? They got to stay out of the box. You can't take stupid penalties or that will really cost the Fuel in this series. And for the Fort Wayne Comets, right, physical play. Use your physical play to your advantage. This is a speed team, skill team, a physical team, right? They are talented from top to bottom on this roster. This is a cup contending team, the Fort Wayne Comets this year. They have to use that to their strengths, right? Push this Indy team around, make them take undisciplined penalties, make them go on the penalty kill. Stuff like that is going to win this series for the Fort Wayne Comets. And also wear down the Fuel with the physical play, right? Push them around, make them take penalties. Stuff like that is going to win this series for the Fort Wayne Comets. And I am projecting the Comets to come out on top in this series. Well, our second matchup in the Central Division, a very interesting one between the 3-seed Bloomington Bison and the 2-seed Toledo Walleye. You know, when you look at this, kind of similar to Savannah, Florida, a very big contrast between these two franchises. The Bloomington Bison in their second season of existence, their first ever playoff appearance as a franchise. Congratulations to them. And then the Toledo Walleye, one of the most well-respected franchises in the league, one of the best fan bases. They're in the playoffs year in and year out, trying to make a deep run. Very different, right, these two teams. And so should be interesting and definitely will have an effect on this series, right? And so my keys for Bloomington, right, is defend well, right? Toledo can score. Toledo is an elite offensive team with guys like Brandon Hawkins, right? They have to defend Brandon Hawkins very well in this series, or else they will not make it to the second round, right? So the Bison need to defend, right? And they can't give Toledo opportunity, right? You take an unforced error, take an unforced icing, you lose a defensive zone faceoff, that's going to cost you, right? So unforced errors is something that the Bison are going to have to limit, or else the Walleye are going to make them pay for that in this series. And then my keys for the Walleye, right? One of the most intimidating atmospheres in all of the ECHL, the Huntington Center. Use that to your advantage, right? Feed off that home crowd energy in Game 1 and Game 2. Use that to your advantage in this series, right? You want to get off to an early lead in the series. You want to have success early. Use that home ice advantage, to help you get to that, right? You gotta use that. You gotta feed off that. Get early goals, right? Intimidate Bloomington. That is going to really help the Walleye in this series, and I'm projecting them to win the series over the Bison. Well, moving on to the Mountain Division now, we have the 4-seed, the Tahoe Night Monsters, and the 1-seed Kansas City Mavericks, who won the Brabham Cup, the regular season champions of the ECHL. Obviously the Mavericks are favored to win this series, right? But let's talk about Tahoe first, right? This is a second-year franchise who's made the playoffs now in back-to-back seasons, and were eliminated by Kansas City in the second round last year. So they see Kansas City again this year, this time in the first round. How can they learn from last year? Well, let's think about what happened last year. Close games, Game 1 and Game 2, very close in Kansas City. They lose those, then they go home, lose momentum, and get kind of blown out in Games 3 and 4. So how do you prevent that from happening this year, right? You have to win close games in this series. If you lose games in overtime, you lose 1-goal games in this series, you're not going to advance if you're the Tahoe Night Monsters, right? If it's a tie game through 40 minutes, you got to find a way to get it to overtime. Got to find a way to get the last goal, right? That's what is going to help the Tahoe Night Monsters in this series. And second off, limit the playmakers for the Kansas City Mavericks. Guys like Marcus Crawford, the scoring leader in the regular season of the ECHL, and rookie Jackson Judding. 2 incredible players for the Kansas City Mavericks who can really make you pay on power plays. How do the Tahoe Night Monsters match up against those 2 athletes? 2 of the best in the ECHL. Tahoe will definitely need to have their number, and make sure they know where they're at all times on the ice. And for Kansas City, keep doing what you've been doing, right? All regular season. What's made them so successful all regular season? Keep doing that. Prolific offense, just blistering defense, all of that. Amazing goaltending. They've had it all this year. They got to keep that going into this playoff series. And also for Kansas City, I would say flip the page from the regular season. What happened in the first 72 games of the season does not matter now. This is the playoffs. Everybody starts from zero. You are on even terms with the Tahoe Night Monsters when this series starts. So that's something that Kansas City has to keep in mind. If you're head coach Tad O'Had, you have to say, you got to get this team motivated, right? They've had so much success. They haven't faced adversity this season. That's one challenge that Kansas City is going to have to overcome, right? That's a mental challenge. Get ready for this series, right? If you're Tad O'Had, communicate to your team that you are on level ground with the Tahoe Night Monsters when this series starts. You got to go out there, put your best foot forward to win the series. And I project the Kansas City Mavericks to be victorious in the series. Well, our final playoff series to preview, and it's a dandy. The 3-seed Idaho Steelheads and the 2-seed Allen Americans going at it in the first round. What a playoff series this is going to be, right? Two rivals in the Mountain Division. They've had some really good matchups in the playoffs in previous seasons. Good regular season matchups. Some chippy matchups, of course, we know in their history. So how do these two teams match up, right? First off, I could see this series going the distance to 7 games. If there was one series that I had to pick in all of these 8 that I would say, yeah, that's a game 7, I would say that it's this Idaho-Allen series. I think it's going to be really, really close and down to the wire. My keys, let's start with Idaho. My keys for the Steelheads, right? Play physical, but play smart, right? This is a rivalry. It gets heated when Allen and Idaho meet up, but play smart, right? Don't take unforced errors. Don't take unforced penalties. That's going to cost you in this series, right? You want to play physical. You want to play to your strengths in this series, but you don't want to play dumb. That's what's going to hurt the Steelheads in this series. You got to play physical, but you got to play smart. That's going to be a big key for the Steelheads in this series. And then for the Allen Americans, right? Offensive-minded, right? This is a very good, very fast, very skilled team. They can score goals, right? We know that from the regular season. They got good goaltending as well, but they have exceptional goal scorers on this team. You got to get the goal scoring in the postseason, excuse me. So how do they do that, right? You got to set up on the power play. You got to have offensive zone time. That's something the Allen Americans have done really well in the regular season. They got to keep that going in this playoff series. And also, don't take bad penalties, right? If you believe that you're the more skilled team in this series, which I think Allen does believe that, don't take bad penalties, right? Don't feed the attack of the Idaho Steelheads, right? Play your game. Don't take penalties. Don't take unforced errors. Play to your skills and strengths, and Allen's going to be successful in this series if they do that. I am picking the upset, though. I'm picking the Idaho Steelheads in this series. I think it's going to be really close, though. Well, that'll do it for our playoff previews of round 1. We will come back to you in about a week and give you an update on all 8 of these series. So we hope you'll enjoy that. But until then, make sure to check out our final fight of the week now. A really good bout there. Hope you'll enjoy it. And we will see you next week for an update on round 1.
Tonight, can't have those long. So here we go.
Oh my, we've got a fight breaking out in the neutral zone. It is Cole Fraser and Will Hillman. Both gentlemen size each other up. Hillman sizing up southpaw. And now they both lock up. Fraser with machine gun rights. Oh my goodness. It's like Rock'em Sock'em robots out there. Fraser's landed every single shot he's got. Hillman has nothing for him. Fraser with uppercut after uppercut, and finally the linesmen spare him.
Oh my goodness. He ripped that helmet a new ear hole. Just wore that